So did open wheel ever appeal to you at all? I mean, the whole indie scene, was that something that had ever entered into your mind? I don't think I've ever heard you talk about that.
Of course it did. I mean, when I was living in Indiana, again, it was sprint cars, Steve Kinzer, Doug Wolfgang, Brad Doty, and then it was IndyCar and Rick Mears and AJ Foy, Johnny Rutherford, Al Unser, those guys. Those were my heroes growing up. I knew of Richard Petty. I knew the name Dale Earnhardt, but it wasn't where my first interest and focus was at. So when I moved back to Indiana, of course, it was all about the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and the Indy 500. And so even though we were very focused on the racing we were doing, there was definitely a bit of an end goal of, hey, how do we get there? Because there was a period of time where that's where midget and sprint car and USAC Silver Crown racers went to. But the times had changed a lot. I learned that pretty quick. Had a couple other guys like Rich Vogler, Andy Hillenberg, that had gone and tried Indy cars at the Speedway with not much success. So there wasn't a lot of interest in bringing a guy like me over there. But we did pursue it. Larry Newber, who was doing all the ESPN broadcasting at that time for the Thursday Night Thunder, he and Bob Jenkins and Gary Lee, those were the guys up in the booth, or in the pits. And so I got to know Larry, and he started talking about NASCAR because he did a lot of the NASCAR broadcasts too. And he said, listen, let's go try some IndyCar stuff. I'll introduce you to some people, but if that doesn't work out, I really want you to look at NASCAR. So that's kind of what happened. I met Carl Haas and Roger Penske and a few of those. But I will say Alan Sir Jr. was the one that because he was the one guy, right, that sort of did the crossover back in those days where he had driven IROC cars, he had driven sprint cars prior to going to IndyCar. And he told me, he said, listen, if you have an opportunity to go NASCAR racing versus IndyCar racing, go NASCAR racing. And
Al told you
I
that.
was very surprised by that.
Hmm.
But I was also seeing that IndyCar racing was a lot of road racing specialists, and a lot of people from other parts of the world coming to this type of racing because that's what they were good at, known for, and they excelled at it. That was not me. I mean, I was going to try to be a road racer if I needed to be, but I was more of an oval track racer. So when Alan Sir Jr. said that, and then I went down, drove the stock car, to me, it just seemed like the stars were starting to align that this is my new path.